another beautiful time. Well, just returning from Edo State discussion, let's get into the state of the nation and look at the economy and, of course, the political space. So many things happening. The most trending thing right now in Nigeria and around the world that is concerns Nigeria is the statement coming from the President of the United States. Well, the policy aspect of it, how is it going to affect the economy? Is it really going to affect relationship between Nigeria and the United States and other countries? Like this morning, we saw on the papers how China, EU, and of course ECOWAS are in support of Nigeria. But the truth is, do we have a situation in Nigeria that needs attention? Today, we'll be looking at the state of the nation, the economy, the political space, and I have Dr. Nii Akinsijo right here. He's the chairman of Independent Media and Policy Initiative, and of course, he is also a financial and investment analyst. It's good to have you join us on the program this morning.
Thanks so much for having me.
Well, I felt there is no one better to talk about the situation right now than you, because it's your area of expertise. Now, let's begin from the statement being issued by the President of the United States. Let's get started from there. Some persons are of the opinion that this is in a way going to affect the economy of the nation. Some people are looking at it from the policy aspect of it. And some people are saying, hey, come on, do we really need this time? Some people are looking at the response of the government and the body language of the government. But what is most important and crucial right now is the policy aspect of it, because that in a way will have maybe a toll on the Nigerian people. So let's get your perspective.
Thanks so much for raising this. Well, I think from time to time, there's always that opportunity to enjoy some drama. I describe this as a whole lot of Trump drama and tantrums. Because in reality, you don't have this kind of experience or this kind of engagement in diplomacy. And of course, diplomacy is grounded in a relationship between countries. And no one country is bigger than the other when it comes to sovereignty. So it's not appropriate for the head of one country to decide that he was going to take such and such steps, against another sovereign country without appropriate consultation, without appropriate engagement and all that. The basis of President Trump's possible invasion of Nigeria is grounded in what is known as the International Religious Freedom Act of 1996. And of course, that act outlines a number of don'ts for countries, that defines the relationship between America and those countries. And one of it is to ensure that no person anywhere in the world, or no government anywhere in the world encourages or enables religious persecution. And when there is enough evidence, and that evidence would have to be empirical, where there is enough evidence, there are certain steps or certain action the United States of America government can take. Non-action or listed in that law talks to a possible invasion. There are sanctions, there are trade sanctions, diversion of moving aids and support, America's aids and support away from such country, and so many others. But none talks specifically about invasion. So when I read, of course, Mr. Trump's outburst on the social post, the Truth Media, I was like, well, Mr. Trump in character has decided, of course, to arouse some drama in this hemisphere, because the truth of the matter is, you don't also take that decisions without engaging possible peer power centers. And when I say peer power centers, you are looking at members of the G7 that share the same economic power, even China and all that. Because we have moved away from the unipolar world, that we used to have some 10, 15 years ago, where America was the only voice that determines what happened in the world. Now you have power resurgence in Russia. You have China stepping up to the plate as a leading voice, as a leading power globally. So when you compare what we have now with what we used to have, it will be a delusion, for any American strategic country,
are not even looking at, because from your explanation now, I am beginning to have more insight into the whole scenario. So continue.
The whole idea is to look at this, the motive first. The motive for me is use the weakness as the witnesses of this country, as propagated by most of our own citizens, because this decision is supposed to have a track, supposed to have a process before the president arrive at a decision to place a country on the list of a country of particular concern, CPC. And the process is clear enough. You have to have an investigative body validate so many petitions. And I can tell you that in truth, effectively since 2009, there has been a place Nigeria on CPC or designate Nigeria as a CPC entity movement, and you've had a lot of petitions emanating especially from a particular part of this country, citizens from a particular part of this country, locally and of course in diaspora. But for every year, because every year an evaluation is made of the possible candidates, as it were, to be designated CPC, every year the State Department that is responsible for advising the President of the United States of America would come out and say that Nigeria has not in any way breached the regulations and of course the expectations of the Act every year until 2020. Now we started experiencing heavy insecurity issues effectively since 2009. It peaked in 2015, with ISWAP, Boko Haram, killings. And when we say killings, it's killings. And nothing should excite us about killings. Either a Muslim or a Christian. Everybody has a right to life. And it is not even about numbers. Just one Nigerian killed, extraneously, should worry us. But essentially, we are saying that by 2015, there was so much of killing, up to about 15,000 recorded officially. And of course, that should bother us. But again, the custodian, the custodian of this law, which is America, still taught that it's not a Christian or Muslim conflict, nor a Muslim on Christian conflict. You always have radical antisocial animals, as represented by Boko Haram. And even in America, you have ISIS, Islamic State, operating virtually everywhere and recording all manners of deaths too. But what I'm trying to say is, despite all that, we also saw in record data provided officially, especially by the Global Terrorism Index, that the numbers of deaths were actually reducing starting from 2016 to 2020. By 2020, what was being recorded there was was less than 400 deaths from conflicts. And when I say conflict, from terrorism incidences. But we also have a strong Nigerian lobby in diaspora, in the country, NGOs, piling petitions, on the American government, manipulating figures. So whereas the Global Terrorism Index will tell us that, just about this thing had reduced to about 400 to about 500, we have different Nigerian bodies, entities, and of course abroad, submitting death numbers of up to 10,000, 11,000, and all that. So, of course, the recipients of this data would either become bewildered, or in the case of serious people, would verify to validate the figures, as it were. But I think Trump in character, and this is my opinion, must be an impulsive person, or rather may also be an opportunist, because he may see opportunities in all this unfounded or verified data. And based on those data, apparently, he placed Nigeria under, as a designated CPC in 2020. But under 1 year, you also had a change of government. The Democrats came in, and under 1 year, they removed Nigeria from that list. So which said essentially that processes were not followed. Because if processes were followed, we know America to be an institutional-driven space. So decisions cannot be made by the whims of the head of government. So if processes had been followed and the appropriate channels of engagement have been made, the president would have made that decision based on verifiable data.
But in all of these, what do you think of the reaction of the Nigerian people right now? Because a lot of things have been said. Like you said, Nigerians are reacting to the situation. Even media persons from the presidency, from the federal government are speaking. But as it is right now, what do you think should be the response, the reaction of Nigeria from your own perspective?
Well, people of different multi-interests, multi-culture and all that. There are some people that are hailing. They are hailing the decisions. There are some people like us condemning it. I'm a practicing Christian, but I also understand the social milieu which we live and exist in this country. There are some people who felt insulted by President Trump describing our country as a disgrace. Because that's a negative branding. I may not necessarily go to America. If I decide to go to Ghana and somebody says, you are a man, this man, you are from that disgraced country. It is a slur on my person, And this person had said this thing just offhandedly, without data basis. What has it done? What's the kind of statistics that are in place to say that Nigeria can be classified as a disgraced jurisdiction? That is an issue we are supposed to take on President Trump, wherever we are as citizens of this country, because that talks to us. Are we truly a disgrace of a country? And if we are laughing and applauding this, are we actually adopting, the submission of President Trump that we are actually citizens of a disgraced country and therefore, by extension, disgraceful people? These are some of the things that should bother us. And I thank God that most Nigerians are coming up, expressing, that patriotic zeal, across the world. Of course, there would always be some minor numbers that would feel, well, this justified their belief, this justified their crusade. Don't forget that some people are saying, let us leave this country. This country is this country is that. And that with this pronouncement by President Trump is a validation of that their crusade. And some people actually, just as I was trying to outline, some people actually were parts of this whole thing. And they are applauding themselves, for this, they are taking credit for what President Trump has done. But essentially, this is a time for Nigerians to rally around the brand Nigeria. Because brand Nigeria talks to the fact that wherever you go, you would always be identified first and foremost as a Nigerian.
All right. I think that's very important. We can't talk about this without talking about that the investment opportunity that Nigeria should have, because oftentimes we hear we need investors in the country to boost the economy. What's your assessment of the economy right now, and of course, the possible implication of this statement coming from the President of the United States? Because I don't know how many people would want to invest in a disgraced country.
Well, thankfully,
as it's been alleged, anyway, it's an allegation.
Seriously, it's an allegation. Seriously, I think more than that, the global investment community understands the nature and character of President Trump. Not many people, not many serious investors are getting concerned, over what has become, what is now known, in informal, unofficial segments as the Trump tantrums. It's a Trump that will wake up one day, do a list of tariffs, and declare without any formal engagement that this company, this country, this is the percentage of tariff. That country, this is the percentage. You don't do that. And whatever I did at that time had implication for the global economy. It had implication for what everybody had adopted as a globalization, of the economy. So when the lead global economy, that is supposed to drive the globalization, reverts to protectionism, then it means that we are changing the model, the global economic model. Global economic model that even a China that was supposed to be a closed door economy had to open itself up to be part of that globalization. And at that period, we also saw the prosperity, the growth in prosperity of the global economy. But now an individual emerged and said, no, he's shutting out other countries, and that he's going to start regulating his own economy. Don't forget that foreign investors across the world and domestic investors in America were caught by surprise. So, and they had been engaging all manners of firefights, across countries since then. So what we have now is just an extension of that tantrums, and investors understand that. And for these blocks, the EU blocks, to issue a statement that they stand by Nigeria is remarkable. It is an understanding of the fact that the role of Nigeria is appropriately acknowledged, in global politics and in global economic sphere. China is taking that position too, and coming out to virtually confront President Trump. So we have good friends. we have countries that have confidence in us. So I don't see this impacting the economy at all. We have not been a great trading partner with America. Most of our trading activities is limited to the oil and gas sector, and that is why when he was talking about tariffs, and some people interviewed me, said we had no cause to trouble ourselves. We should not be troubling ourselves, because the major international trade transaction or engagement we've had with America has been a crude oil and gas sector. And of course, President Trump was clear-headed enough to know the implication of putting tariff on the oil and gas sector. And he said that one was out of it. So if it was out of it, we should not bother, And then it now came at the time that we now have a Dangote refinery that is producing high quality, globally commended, of course, standardized quality PMS, or let's say even other forms of petroleum products. And they are now importing billions of liters of petroleum products to America. And that is strange. That is going to end up, we've been recording, I think for just one quarter, second or first quarter, I'm not sure, of 2025, we had a trade deficit with America. But six quarters before then, we've been recording trade surpluses. So for President Trump, this will be an opportunity, to correct that trade imbalance between Nigeria and America. Because now, the truth of the matter is, with the current administration, knowing the role of kinetic engagement in this conflict, had been purchasing a huge number of military hardware and softwares from America. So far, I think more than $700 million worth over the last 24 months, and that is record breaking. It's record breaking. So it's good. It's good money. It's good trade opportunities for America, as it were. And I think they are asking for more. And when you properly investigate this and situate the economic interests in the whole of this drama, you will realize that President Trump may be looking out for an opportunity for a defense pact.
All right. I think it's so good that this may not affect our investment opportunities. That stands out for a lot of Nigerians because we're looking forward to investments coming in. Well, time will not permit us to take more questions, but then I want to say a very big thank you to you for joining us. The conversation is intense, and of course a lot of Nigerians are getting to understand one or two things right now, because from what you have said so far, it's looking more like a strategy, okay, for the United States somehow, and Nigerians and investors, having known the kind of person Donald Trump is, there should be a way that his speeches, statements should be looked at. Many thanks once again for joining us, Doctor.
Pleasure is mine. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. That has been a very wonderful time with Dr. Ni Akinseju. He is, of course, a financial and investment analyst, and he's the chairman of Independent Media and Policy Initiative. We're looking forward to probably your organization may bring up a policy as regards this whole drama, maybe subsequently. We'll get to talk about that maybe in our subsequent programs.
That would be great. That would be great.
All right, Nigerians, this is going to be the size of the second discussion. Global Morning continues.